Um, so welcome to the Babycastles Academy of making rhythm games in Unity and Wwise. Can I turn music down or mic up? I will do that. I do have a bit of a delay, but I can make sure my mic is working properly. Okay, apparently that's good now. Cool. All right. Got a bunch of windows open, so I'm just gonna be juggling those forever. So hopefully those of you who are in the chat can see the workshop notes that were just dropped in chat. And this is kind of what I'm looking at right now. One other thing that you're going to need is the project repo, but before we even get to that, let's kind of make sure everybody's set up with Unity and Wwise, because those both take some time to set up, and you need to make profiles and stuff like that. So for those of you who haven't done that, you might want to jump down a little bit later to downloading Unity and downloading Wwise. Unity is probably going to take the most amount of time, and especially if you're also streaming right now, depending on your internet situation, you probably want to start this quickly because it's a couple gigabytes, and that can take a while. Wwise is a bit smaller, but you do have to register and make an account. And there's I included a couple of pictures here because Wwise is a little bit less straightforward of an installer, I think. Yeah, I don't know if I can post that in the chat. It's a little bit less straightforward of an installer, so I have some annotations here on what you're gonna want for the Wwise. I never know if it's Wwise or just Wwise, so I'm just gonna say Wwise. So go ahead, go through those while we're kind of talking about other things. Get them to be on autopilot as soon as we can. And I'm going to talk a little bit about sort of the overview here and open up my slides. Just in case, I'm going to go back here. So I guess I'll just start on this introduction for me. My name is Corey. Hi everybody, I'm Corey. We have, looks like 19 people here. Welcome. And I use he, him pronouns, just so you know. I'm a game developer and audio designer, sometimes a musician, here in beautiful Brooklyn, New York. I teach a class on music games at NYU, and this slide shows some of the music games that I've made before. I can put I'll put my website in here as well if you want to check that out. No, thank you for coming to this workshop. I'm very happy that people are here, and I hope it's useful. I think I mentioned this in the overview, but just as we're going through things, you know, for those of you who are new to either Unity or Wwise, that they're kind of big pieces of software, and they can be kind of complicated. And I'm trying to get us to a point where, you know, you can get something that's good enough to be making music games, and then there's much more room for exploration. And I'm very happy to chat on the Babycastles Discord or, you know, Twitter or whatever else about other things that you're trying to do in music games. because this is very near and dear to my heart, I've made a few music games. I'm working on one right now with Glow Up Games, which is another NYU Game Center kind of affiliated company. I guess I could say. Um, and yeah, this is something that I think is really fun. Um, so let me just jump back over to the overview. Um, so I'm hoping this is going to be pretty approachable. At the very least, you have like a project that you can toy around with and change to your liking. That's a relatively functional rhythm game project, and I tried to comment it as much as possible. This class is like a mini version of a few units that I teach as part of my music games class, and 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 yeah, so this is something that I'm like constantly trying to get better and refine and make more approachable for folks. Um, but with that being said, both Unity and Wwise can take years to fully master. So don't be too discouraged if some things feel like a little bit too complex or use kind of esoteric lingo or something like that. Um, and and yeah, hopefully this is fun. So we're now in like the setup phase where hopefully those of you who need to are downloading Unity and downloading Wwise. Um, there, like I said at the start of class, for those of you joining a little bit after 3 here, um, but Unity is kind of a big install, and the right way to do Unity, if you scroll down, there's like more information on how to install Unity and Wwise. But you are supposed to like go in and make profiles with both Unity and Wwise in order to install their software. They're free for most people, so that's the main reason that I use them, is that they're kind of commonly used tools in game design and audio design, respectively. And they are pretty helpful for what we need to do, which is making music-based gameplay. So we're going to talk a little bit about what a rhythm game is and how you make one. We're going to talk a little bit about like the kind of main game loop, as we call it, which is kind of this call and response gameplay. And I'm going to go over a couple like common issues in making music-based games, some things that I've just noticed from a few attempts to make my own rhythm games, and seeing what some of my students struggle with. Checking the chat here. I have a dual computer setup here. I feel so fancy right now. And then, so part 2, we'll go through the Unity project and just kind of test the game out. I'll go over just sort of a high level of what everything is sort of doing in our main Unity scene. Maybe answer any questions for those of you who are new to Unity. And I can talk a little bit about where to change what buttons are used, because for those of you who want to like make your own rhythm games, like something that could be fun is hooking up something like an Arduino or a Makey or something like that. There's some ways that you can change how to like put different buttons in, so you can come up with your own controllers or something like that. And then I'll talk a little bit about some things that we could do to like spice this up visually, and we'll see why. So then what I'm thinking is our last, 45 minutes will be mostly in Wwise. I'll do a quick overview of Wwise. Like I said, this is kind of like meant to be very kind of introductory and high level. There's a lot of things that you could do in Wwise with interactive sound and interactive music. Most of it we're not going to touch on at all. We just want to worry about using their music timeline, which lets us kind of create our own levels, which is pretty useful. Um, so we'll talk a little bit about the structure of Wwise, and how you could go about creating your own sounds. Because one of the issues with Wwise is that you can't use Unity audio. So those of you who are kind of used to the way Unity uses audio might be like, well, why can't I make a sound effect? And it's because like all of Unity audio is kind of disabled if you're using Wwise. And I might just briefly mention some of the fancy stuff that we don't touch for this class, for those of you who want to go a little bit further. But most of our time is going to be spent in the musical view and the timeline, because this is how we're going to make our beat maps, which is basically like our level design in a rhythm game. I'll show you how to import your own music and set the tempo correctly, go a little bit over the controls, and then we'll spend the rest of the time making levels. If we have time, I can mention how to incorporate MIDI events and sustain stuff, and we'll kind of talk about what those mean. Any questions so far on what we're covering? I gotta kind of wait for the lag here, but I got a thumbs up. I'm just gonna keep going, but just pop questions into chat, and I'll make sure that I get to them. And if there's any like subjects that you want to go over, I might just have to acknowledge them for the end of class if we can get to them. So why this class? I made about 5 rhythm game prototypes. Never actually shipped them. I should do that one of these days. Usually I make them in Unity, and I've also taught rhythm game design 3 times, usually in Unity as well, and I've noticed some common struggles and problems. This is mostly covered in the GitHub, but these are some of the goals of this workshop. And what you need to download. So I'm not really sure what the definition of a rhythm action game is. We could look up the Wikipedia definition. So what is a rhythm action game? And I have like DDR on here. I'm gonna mute it so that we don't get muted by the Twitch authorities. Let me do that really quick. But this is the first rhythm action game to really make it overseas. Well, maybe it was Parappa the Rapper. I think they were around the same time. But this was huge for my generation, DDR. And I think it still is huge for a lot of people. So it's basically a game where you need to do something on some sort of musical timing. You need to perform actions on a rhythmic musical timeline. Let's see what Wikipedia says. Rhythm action game. A genre of music-themed action video game that challenges a player's sense of rhythm. Games in the genre typically focus on dance or the simulated performance of musical instruments. Yeah, so I guess that's pretty straightforward. It's a game where you need to do stuff in time with music. I'm going to turn the desktop audio back on. I think it's this one. Y'all can let me know if you can't hear anything. But most rhythm action games boil down to a very simple kind of game structure or a game loop. And it happens to also be a musical structure in certain musical forms and musical cultures as well. But a lot of times we're looking at either like a call and response, or you can also kind of abstract this as like a cue and an action gameplay, where you're uh, where you're given like either an arrow in the case of DDR, you've got these arrows on the screen, or in the case of Rhythm Heaven, you might have something that's more of a diegetic cue, so it's like in the game universe. And I think this one is a really great example. So in this one, you play as this dog in an airplane on the left-hand side of the screen. It's so good. I love this game so much. So for those of you who've played this game, you kind of probably know what's going on. For those of you who don't, maybe it's a little bit confusing. But basically, what you need to do is press the button, which I think is like either the A button or the B button, on the offbeats, and you're given the cue from the voice, which is kind of representing the cat character. I can't remember which one is Baxter and which one is Forthington, but yeah, when the cat makes that like high pitched like yip cue, then you have to do things on the offbeats. But when it goes bum 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 bum, it means that you have to do things in like a halftime way. So your cue is like is twice as long. It's actually kind of an like Rhythm Heaven actually gets you doing some complicated musical things without really realizing it, which is one of the reasons I love that game so much. So if we think about this like in another way, if we think about this like call and response or cue action game in a way that some of us who make music are maybe more familiar with, we can kind of put this on a musical timeline. This is just taken straight out of my digital audio workstation. Where this is like a musical waveform. It's just kind of the visual representation of what the, in this case, it's the drum part looks like. So a main game loop is we're going to give a player a cue at some point in time, usually on a musically significant point in time, and we expect them to perform an action shortly after that cue. So it could be 2 beats, it could be 4 beats. A lot of times it's like 4 beats. That's pretty typical. And then we see how they did, and we give them either a reward or a penalty, usually like a score, or maybe they can fail out of the level or something like that. And we just repeat that over and over until the game ends. That's the basic like gameplay loop of most rhythm action games. Doesn't matter if it's Rhythm Heaven or DDR or something like Thumper, which is a more recent rhythm game. They all have kind of the same structure. One thing that we have to be aware of, though, is we can't expect someone to do something like precisely at a point in time. Like this doesn't really work for a number of reasons. So we usually want to have some kind of like window of time where they can press the button, stomp on the dance pad, whatever, do the dance move if we're playing Dance Central or something like that. So a lot of times we need to, well, pretty much every time we need to program in some kind of window of time. It could just be like one window for like everything, and it's just, you don't give them like different kinds of scores. But a lot of games, especially those inspired by Japanese rhythm games, will have different like scoring qualities, like good, perfect, late, okay, something like that. And that's the way they kind of like encourage like high level gameplay, is by having these progressively narrower scoring windows. So that's actually, I put this in here because this is similar to how our example project is set up, where we have certain things we do when it's early, And then we have progressively smaller scoring windows to reward more accurate players. And this is just another way of like looking at that in the language that Dance Dance Revolution uses. And yeah, this is very typical of most Japanese rhythm arcade games. So before we get into the Unity part, I want to talk a little bit about like some of the common struggles that I've seen, and one of them is time, the notion of time itself, because most modern like game engines are really great at giving you intuitive ways of making spaces and making like places where things could happen, and giving you like different ways of making cause and effect relationships and things like that. But they're not really great at giving you at making gameplay that happens like on the set timeline. So in our case, we're bound to this timeline, and it like waits for no one, and we need to make sure that things are happening according to this musical timeline. And right now, there really isn't a great built-in Unity tool or Unity package or whatever that works for this. There is a plugin that I'll talk about later called Choreographer, which runs in Unity and is pretty helpful if you want to stay in Unity. The reason I don't use it for this workshop is because it is a premium product, and I try to keep things free, at least for beginners, and then that's something that you should get if you want to keep, if you have the means and want to support some tool developers, because they're very good. The second common struggle that I've found is that even though we're dealing with like the same gameplay loop basically for all these different types of games, whether it's DDR or Rhythm Heaven or something more like Elite Beat Agents or something like that, it's kind of hard to create a multi-purpose toolkit for rhythm games. And Rhythm Heaven, Thumper, DDR, all these different games have similar core gameplay, but were designed very differently. This isn't just like a feeling that I have. The other people that have made music games have kind of talked about a similar thing. I think fortunately though, like once you kind of get a grasp of like some of the core like call and response gameplay and how that is coded, then hopefully then it's not as much trouble to make your own. Yeah, I just wanted to give one more plug for Choreographer. It was made by people who worked at Harmonix. So it comes from that like background of for those of you who don't know, like Harmonix are the people that made Guitar Hero, I think, and Amplitude and Frequency and Dance Central and Rock Band, and most recently made Fuser, which is a really fun DJing game. So some former developers there have made this Unity plugin, which helps in the design of rhythm games. So this is one thing that really kind of makes me sad, but we can't make web builds with Wwise, and that's kind of what I've chosen to use for this class and for the class that I taught at NYU. And I don't like that because of it is an accessibility issue, and it's just, I don't know, it's a constant struggle with getting audio tools that work cross-platform, including on web. There are some technical reasons for this, but yeah, there's if you want to make a rhythm game on the web, there's some ways that you can do it in Unity. You might want to look into some other options, like JavaScript with Tron.js or Haxflixel I've seen used for a few things. I'm not sure about Godot. I remember they were having some issues with web audio, but maybe those are better now. I'm not really gonna go over these minor circles too much. They're things that, you know, if you're trying to make more high level gameplay, or if you're noticing a lot of problems with latency, you might want to look into. And this audio time versus frame rate is something that if you're making something that's like geared towards like high level play, you're gonna want to start to pay attention to. Wwise gets pretty close at like approximating the solution to this problem. You know, this might be like a little bit. I know I'm going through this fairly quickly, but basically the issue here is that your audio time goes at a different rate than your main game time. They run on what are called different threads, which I think some people probably understand what that means, and other people are like, "Are we like sewing? What's going on?" That all you need to know really is that there's a little bit of a discrepancy between like the main way that you program things in Unity and what's happening with the audio. It doesn't really matter for us. Wwise has like a thing that helps like smooth out that discrepancy. And for me, it's been working pretty well. I don't usually make like really complex expert level gameplay. If that's something that you're aiming towards, then this is something that you might want to look into. Here's some stuff that I looked at when, you know, working on rhythm games and how to create them. Lots of good resources on different kinds of like prototyping processes. Like Jam Session was a team of students at Carnegie Mellon who made like 8 different rhythm game prototypes and have like blog posts about each one of them. And then there's some other blog posts here about the design of different kinds of rhythm games and music games. Cool. I hope this was somewhat helpful, and now hopefully most of you have the hopefully most of you are set up with Unity and Wwise, or at least have them downloaded. So I'm gonna paste in one more time the project GitHub. There we go. So this is the example project that we're going to use. And you can go ahead and, where do I have it? Our example project is Co-op Revolution. Hopefully that won't result in a lawsuit from Bennett or Konami. Go ahead and like download this. You can just download the entire zip file. If for those of you who are familiar with Git, you know, you can also do it the proper way of downloading it through a GUI client or the command line or something like that. I'm gonna close it all down so that I can show the proper way to open all of these. I guess I'll save that. If we've downloaded the zip, how do we import? How about let me do it. I'll do this along with everybody. I'll just find a new place on my desktop. You see, following along. So I'm on Windows, as you some of you could probably see. Mac might be a little bit different. So I'm just gonna download this to a directory on my desktop. Hopefully this will work. And then I'm going to open that up and right click it and extract all, just to the same directory for me. It's going to take a sec. So yeah, I went to the code button and went down to download zip. And then extracted it. I just used the built-in, decompressor and did extract all. So there might be like a few directories in here, and should look something like this. So I'm going to go through Unity Hub for opening up the Unity project, because that's what I usually do. Unity Hub is good if you have multiple versions of Unity. And I already have one on here, but this is the one that's in the different directory. So if you don't see anything here, you can click on Add. And here I put that in BBC following along. This is where maybe it gets a little confusing, because you need to make sure you pick the right folder. Otherwise it won't recognize it as a Unity project. So I need to go to Wwise Rhythm Game -main, and then click on Wwise Rhythm Game -main and select folder. Because if I tried to add the one in the top level, it's gonna say it's not a Unity project path. So make sure you go into the second level of the Wwise Rhythm Game -main. Already we're getting confusing. So if anybody doesn't catch that, wants me to back up, just holler in chat. And then I'm gonna click on that and it should open up. Can we use the newer version of Unity for this, or should we stick to 2020.3.2 F1? I don't think you'll have a problem with the newer version of Unity. They're usually pretty good about, this is what's called an LTS, a long-term support branch of Unity. And usually those are pretty fine with opening older projects in newer Unity. So hopefully that works okay. Oh no. That's not good. Well, we'll see what kind of errors we get. Connection refused. Well, okay. Well, I'll debug that in a moment. But I'm gonna go to in my project tab down here in the bottom third of the screen. I'm gonna double click on the scenes folder. And I'm gonna open up the basic rhythm game.unity. It's gonna ask if we want to save changes made in untitled, and I do not want to save that. So it says I'm getting some Wwise errors here. I'm gonna press play and see if I get any sound. Let's maximize this. So I gotta press spacebar to start, and yeah, I'm getting some problems here. That's no good. Yeah. Okay. Well, we will try to fix this together. This is fun. This is an adventure. Yeah, this is unfortunately an issue with Wwise sometimes, where the Wwise project and the Unity project get disconnected. Let me see if I can find one way of doing things. So I'm going to try going to edit and project settings. And down here with, let's see, down here with the Wwise editor, I'm going to go to where it says the Wwise project path. And I'm going to navigate to where I downloaded our rhythm game. And there should be this folder called rhythm game template _ Wwise project. And in there should be a file called quaprevolution.wproj. So I'm gonna make sure that's selected. Alright, well, it looked like that changed. So it might have been at the incorrect spot. Oh no. Oh, this is kind of sad. That didn't work. So, yeah, I can check if the soundbank folder path is correct. Let's see. Oops. Oh, that's supposed to be in streaming assets. That's right. It looks like that's correct. Streaming assets, audio generated sound banks. Okay, what I'm gonna do, that was another input in that window. This one. All right, one thing I'm gonna try is jumping over to Wwise. I didn't want to do this yet, but I guess we've got to try to fix this problem. We're gonna open up Wwise and see if we can't get it to reconnect just by regenerating the sound banks in there. So I'm gonna open up my Wwise launcher. For me, it's from the command line or the start menu, rather, not the command line. And you probably don't have as many projects open as me, but you can go up to recent projects and do open other. And then so you want to navigate again to where you extracted the project folder and go into the rhythm game template _wise project and select the quaprevolution.wbroj. Okay. This is probably the problem. All right, I might have to yeah, that's probably why it's not working. There's something wrong with the Wwise project. Okay, so it doesn't like the music clip MIDI. I've messaged that at the bottom that says Wwise Unity aka Sound Engine is not loaded. Yeah, I'm not sure if that's the same problem that I'm having, Alex, but we're definitely having some Wwise problems. It seems like the version of the project I uploaded had some like some sort of file error. So I think like I'm gonna take about 10 minutes try to fix that up, and then I'll come back on stream and we'll kind of go from there. Sorry everybody, this is obviously like not something we expected. But it's a good thing I'm going along with everybody because now I know what the problem is. I think I know how to solve this one, so I'm just going to try to get that, and then we'll come back on just before 4 p.m. Eastern time, and we'll keep moving from there. All right.